Hello. Thank you for your interest in the Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Legacy Funds at the Community Foundation for Greater Buffalo. Welcome to our information session. My name is Bazan Lin, and I'm an Associate Vice President at the Community Foundation for Greater Buffalo. I go by my last name, Lin. I have other colleagues who will be co-presenting in this information session, and I would like to ask other members of the Community Foundation team to introduce themselves.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Hoos, and I am a program officer at the Community Foundation for Greater Buffalo.
Hello, my name is Daisha Clark. I am the Director of Project Play Western New York and Youth Sport Initiatives here at Community Foundation for Greater Buffalo.
Thank you again for watching this information session. We are committed to using your time efficiently, and the agenda for the next 30 minutes will be to spend a few minutes on the history of the Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Legacy Funds. And then we're going to talk about objectives and other grant requirements for the 4 Legacy Funds, timeline, and some basics of the application process and decision criteria. The Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Foundation established endowment funds at the Community Foundation for Greater Buffalo to provide a permanent source of support for programs and initiatives that reflects the personal passions of Mr. Wilson. Endowment funds are designed to grow over time, and in order to ensure they are perpetual, the principal of the funds are not touched. So each year, a portion of earnings in these funds will be distributed. 2016 was the first year of distribution from these funds. This year, about 800,000 will be distributed in total from the 4 different funds, and we will distribute about 150,000 for caregivers, 150,000 for community assets, 250,000 for design and access, and another 250,000 for youth sports. Please note these are average amounts, and they may vary in the real time. The grants made from these legacy funds held at the Community Foundation are distinct from the grants made by the Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Foundation directly. Please note that distinction very carefully. In most cases, the grants made from these funds at the Community Foundation serve to support very localized projects across the 8 counties of Western New York, for which a smaller grant can make all the difference. In some cases, it may also provide an opportunity to test out ideas and programs on a smaller or even a pilot level. All organizations and agencies can apply even if they have an outstanding grant through the Community Foundation or from last year's Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Legacy Funds. I'm going to quickly go through the overall goal for each of the 4 funds and then spend the majority of the time talking about the specifics of each fund. The goal of the Caregiver Fund is to support caregivers, whether paid, voluntary, or family of persons who are unable to fully care for themselves and are part of an underserved community. Preference will be given to organizations or projects that provide support to caregivers of older adults. Community Asset Fund is to support significant cultural and historic assets and increase access to long-term arts instruction for youth. Design and Access Fund is designed to increase the health and quality of life of Western New York residents of all ages by enhancing outdoor activities within our region. This fund will give preference to projects that incorporate green design and universal access design. And the last but not least, the Youth Sports Fund is designed to support and provide opportunities for all children to be active through sport. I will now hand off to Jonathan for the Caregivers Fund.
Thank you, Lynn. The caregivers process is informed by a goal to support caregivers, whether paid, voluntary, or family, of persons who are unable to fully care for themselves, and with a preference for those who are part of an underserved community. Preference will be given to organizations or projects that provide support to caregivers of older adults. The objectives for the caregiver process are to increase opportunities for caregivers to take advantage of resources. Examples of such resources include, but are not limited to, transportation assistance, support for volunteers, and training opportunities. Some additional criteria are that these are one-time grants, they are not multi-year. The grant amounts can vary between $10,000 to $25,000. The focus of these grants is on the 8 counties of Western New York. Grants can be made to governmental or nonprofit agencies, but not to individuals. The intent is not to replace public funding, but to augment and leverage it. And funding will be provided for programming or capital, but no scholarships. Additionally, organizations can apply to multiple legacy funds at the Community Foundation through our competitive grant cycle. Organizations that have received a legacy fund grant in the past are also welcome to apply again. And now I'm going to turn over to Lynn to speak about community assets.
Thank you, Jonathan. Community assets. Community assets support significant cultural and historic assets and/or increase access to long-term arts instruction for youth. Specifically, the objectives of the community assets are to increase access to long-term art instruction for children and youth living in under-resourced communities, and also to restore and leverage significant historic buildings and architectural landmarks with a preference for sites that promote cultural tourism. Also note that the focus of the second objective is around sites that promote tourism. The Community Foundation for Greater Buffalo also has a flagship competitive grant cycle that has similar objective to community assets. Please note that you can apply to both opportunities. One major difference for you to note is that the Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Legacy Fund for Community Assets does not require the historic building to be on the historic register. An additional criteria for community assets funds are, these are one-time grants like other legacy funds. The grant size will be between $10,000 and $25,000. And one major point that I would like to emphasize for the community asset is that we will only fund organizations located in the Erie County. The programs have to be in the Erie County, and the 501c3 not-for-profit agency that applies for the community asset grants has to be located in the Erie County. Once again, the organizations need to be 501c3 not-for-profit. We will fund for both capital and programming. As Jonathan said earlier, organizations can apply to multiple legacy funds, as well as to the Community Foundation's competitive grant cycle. But please note there is a limit of 1 application per fund category per organization for the legacy funds. Past recipients of a legacy funds grant are welcome to apply again. I will now discuss about Design and Access Legacy Fund process. Design and Access aim to support enhancement of community access to spaces and programs that support healthy living. The specific objectives of Design and Access are the support for pre-planning, development, and/or construction costs. This may include projects related to increasing the walkability and bikeability of local communities and improving waterways, greenways, and recreation corridors. It is a preference, but not requirement, that these projects include green design to be environmentally sustainable and also incorporate universal access design to serve people of all abilities. An additional criteria for design and access are these are one-time grants. The grants can request up to 50,000. Again, this is the only opportunity where you can request up to 50,000 among the other legacy funds. The funds can be used for planning, pre-planning, programming, or capital. Please note that these are one-time grant, not multi-year, but you can always come in for phase 2, phase 3 of these long-term projects. But these are one-time grants, please note. We will find organizations located in all 8 counties of Western New York. Applicants can be 501c3 non-for-profit organizations or the government entities such as municipalities or the school districts. Large sports facilities are not of interest. Again, organizations can apply to multiple legacy funds as long as it makes impacts in the communities. I will now hand off to Deja Clark for a youth sports session. Deja?
Thank you, Lynn. Our youth sport legacy grants are here to support organizations or projects that provide opportunities for all children to be active through sport. Specifically, requests that build collaboration among organizations are greatly encouraged. The youth sport legacy grants are for one-time grants, not to be used for multiple years, but they can be applied to year over year. Legacy grants have a maximum of $25,000 for youth sports. There is not a select minimum. We do ask that you keep each of the grant requests comparable to your program needs. The intentions behind our youth sport legacy grants are to engage or re-engage youth in sport, recreation, or play that are not previously active. All 8 counties are accessible for grants. That includes Erie, Niagara, Allegheny, Cattaraugus, Chautauqua, Genesee, Orleans, and Wyoming. We will receive applications from both 501c3 nonprofit organizations, municipalities, and schools. To repeat my counterparts, although you can apply to multiple legacy grant sections, you can only submit one project for youth sport legacy grants. And previous applicants who have received grants are welcome to apply again. Our youth sport objectives are built around the State of Play Western New York report. So I do encourage that you take some time out and read through that report that gives an overview of the state of play, recreation, and sport for our youth in this region. There are 8 distinct plays that have been identified from the Aspen Institute to support quality youth sports. And here in Western New York, we are heavily focused in 3 areas of reintroducing free play, encouraging sports sampling, training all coaches, and unique to our region, we are also have a focus on capacity building for youth sport organizations. Some considerations as you're preparing your grant proposal. We are going to be looking for a connection to the 2017 State of Play Western New York report. So I do want to repeat, it will be definitely to your advantage to take some time out to read through that report and learn more about the data that was pulled together for this region. We do encourage a connection to the current initiatives coming from Project Play Western New York, specifically free play, sports sampling, coaches training, and capacity building. It would definitely strengthen your application to have distinct connections to the previous work of our Built to Play initiative. And lastly, all projects should be advancing the work of the Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Youth Sport Initiatives, which are strategically positioned to change the narrative around youth sport and play in order to increase participation and the retention of kids in youth sports. Youth serving organizations that sincerely want to help change this narrative on a long-term basis are encouraged to apply. Lastly, some additional criteria. Funds will not be considered, we will not consider requests for traditional sporting good equipment. that can possibly be available through Good Sports. So we encourage all to reach out to Good Sports and learn more about their offerings for our region. Now, if there are non-traditional sporting good requirements, we are more than welcome to include that in your grant request, but we ask that you do take the time to connect with Good Sports and learn about what their offerings are. Project Play Western New York offers the Race Matters Institute Racial Equity Impact Analysis training on a regular basis, and we encourage any organization that is hoping to receive Youth Sport Legacy Funds to take advantage of that training. We hope that your board members and your program leads will learn much and you can apply that racial equity lens to the programming that you are offering. We encourage any requests that support collaboration among youth sport organizations or youth serving organizations. And we request that you put a clear picture of your programming plan, including the relationships that will result from participation in your new strategies and programming. Lastly, a sincere commitment to advancing the priorities of both Project Play and the Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Youth Sport Initiatives is imperative in the narrative and construct of your project. And now I'll hand back off to Lynn in order to talk more about the timeline for all the legacy grants.
Thank you, Deja. Timeline, very important. November 7, we open all 4 grant processes. So now all the grant processes are live. The legacy fund processes are live on a Fountain system. So please sign in to the Fountain system if you haven't done so. They are currently live. The applications are due by December 2nd at 4 p.m. There will be no wiggle room. Any application that's submitted after 4 p.m. on December 2nd will not be considered, unfortunately. By late April, the grant notifications will be sent out. And those who get awarded, the grants will be dispersed by May 2023. And then the grant reports are coming to due 1 year after project completion. If you do get funded in May of 2023, then the grant reports will be coming to due by June 2024. All applications must be submitted electronically through our Fountain system. Please create an account if you are new to the Community Foundation's grant process. If you have any questions about Fountain, please contact me directly at 716-852-2857 extension 243 or lynb@cfgb.org. Your work saves automatically in our Fountain system, so you don't need to worry about not being able to save your work while you're working on your application. But please pay attention to the character count. And also, please pay attention to the size for the uploads. And here are a few notable items in our application. You have to submit a clear and concise budget. The budget is required. Sometimes some organizations submit the entire organizational budget. We do not need that. We only require a project-specific budget. Organizations are also required to sign off on the conflict of interest policy. And there is a Charity Strong question in our application. Please be noted that you will not be penalized for not part of the Charity Strong, but we just would like to know which organizations are part of Charity Strong, which is one of our initiatives. We also require lists of board members and the bios of project personnel. Please only submit 1 page per person. And if you are submitting CV or resumes, please try to limit 1 to 2 pages. There will only 2 spaces for memorandum of understanding or the letters of support. You can only upload 2 documents. So if you're submitting more than one document, please compile them into one large PDF and then upload it as 1 big document. There's also an optional space for you to submit recent program evaluation if you have done so. The Community Foundation reviews grants in accordance with the identified goals and objectives for each legacy fund and eligibility requirements. Our grant review will include consideration for the organizational capacity or past experience with grants, overall project readiness, impact on the attended audience, outcomes, and how they will be measured. And please note that, we like to see both quantitative and qualitative outcomes, preferably quantitative outcomes. We understand sometimes there are qualitative outcomes, but we would really like to see the numbers. Please pay attention to it. We'd also consider the project sustainability and the overall demonstration that the organization is a learning organization, if applicable. If you have any questions with regard to the caregiver, please reach out to Jonathan Hoos. If you have any questions about design and access or the community assets, please reach out to me, Baz and Lynn. If you have any questions about applying to USPOS, please reach out to Deja Clark. Thank you.